The whole construct of human society is just that, a construct.
Indeed.
Indeed. You know, hey, man. Happy hour, Dennis.
Hey, man. Happy hour.
Guess where I am?
The Czech Republic?
No, that's next week. I'll be in Croatia.
Oh, you're in your new office.
I'm in my newly
I see
painted.
the gray, yes. I see the nice
this,
light gray. Yes.
And it was supposed to take 1 week, and it took 3.5 weeks, but they're done.
Give me a view, man. Give me a...
I guess I can pick up this camera here.
Holy mackerel, look at that.
Got a bar.
Oh, my God.
When you coming
Wait
over,
a
man?
minute.
See that balcony over there? And the TV?
How long can I stay there before you think it was rude?
I don't know.
3 months? 3 months?
8 or 9 months, I think. This is my little pad, because it's like where I'm going to spend all my day at work, and it's where the better TV is for after the family goes to bed. And
I am impressed beyond words. That area, that nook area with the table that sticks out, the little
yes, the bar. We didn't design that. That was here already, but it's the kitchen.
But they certainly chose the right way to use the wood around the perimeter of those doors, and smart.
Yes.
Not to do it everywhere.
Exactly.
You know,
and so the ceiling is white, and the walls are gray, and it's just lovely. It used to be.
And what's your floor?
It used to be like the walls used to be yellow and bumpy, as you may recall. The floor is nice wood.
Did you lift the carpet to find that, or
no? That was here. It's similar to what we have in our house across the hall, and so this apartment was a summer apartment for someone that doesn't live here. They would come and spend weekends here, but then they would go months at a time without being here. And enough times they left the blinds open to the balcony so that the sun came through and
in the floor
and ruined the floor there. And
white,
so
the floor, bleached it.
Yes. And so last Christmas we had so we asked around for people. There's people that will come and redo your floors, and they're called in Spanish, they're called acuchillador, which means like a knifer or a shaver, like someone that's going to come and shave a bit off.
Yeah, I've actually worked with the machine that shaves the large push thing. So anyway,
this guy had one of those, and it was just this one guy, and he came over and looked at everything and said, "Yeah, I can do this." And I said, "Isn't the furniture going to be a problem?" He said, "No, I'll just move all the furniture over to one side and then do the side under the furniture and then move the furniture back." And we were like, "Okay." And I expected him to have at least one or two young lads come and help him, but no, he did it all by himself, just dragging the furniture around.
Yeah, it's just that he had a side tool to do the edges, but a handheld.
Anyway, he also said, "Oh, modern floor varnish only takes half a day to dry. It doesn't, not like before where it took a long time." And anyway, he came, and we're not very pleased with the work that he did.
And why?
There's just scratches on the floor and shit that shouldn't be there, and it wasn't a very good job. And he wanted to be paid in cash, and I asked him for an invoice so that I could take it because we needed to prove that we had spent X number of euros within the first year of buying the apartment to the government to get a tax break. And he made a mistake on the invoice, and I said, "Hey, can you fix this?" And he said, "Sure." And he took it away, and then he came back the next day, and he had, with a pen, changed the thing on the invoice. Like he wasn't capable of printing out another invoice or sending it to me digitally or anything like that. Anyway,
how many euros was it, or how much American?
It was 600 euros, 800 American.
That's incredibly cheap to get a floor done there.
But
that's what you paid for.
Exactly. But we don't know people that do this stuff, so we've been asking around, and once we find someone that we trust, we sort of trust their opinion on other people. And anyway, we had a guy come by to give us an estimate on doing the floors in our house, the much bigger house, and they seemed much more competent. Like, it was two guys. Normally with this sort of thing, there's the boss guy, and then there's the guy that does all the work. And both of them came, and the guy that does all the work did all the measuring with a laser thing to measure the square footage, square meterage. And the other guy explained to me that, look, nowadays there's two kinds of varnish to put on your floor. There's one that is the shiny one that is what has always been used, that is looks like what you have already, and there's another one that is more water based, that isn't so it's more matte, and it makes the wood look more like wood in a nice way.
Finish. And where'd you go?
And I said, is there a price difference? And he says, yeah, there's a little bit of a price difference. You're looking at $300 on $3,000, and this is like a thing you do every 10 years, so it's not really. So we haven't chosen. He actually hasn't given the quote.
Well, there's a couple of schools of thought about that.
Well,
having gone through.
To elaborate. Floor me with your knowledge.
If you go with shiny, which in my wife's view is the best way to go. She likes the floor to, when you walk in the room, to just shine.
Right.
And that has a attractive quality to it, but on the downside, it also shows the dust and dirt more.
Indeed.
And imagine when you're walking on a floor barefoot, when you're in a shiny one, after you're gone, you can see your footprints.
Yep.
But with a flat finish, less the case. The other benefit of the flat is that it's more like the floor was built and intended. Not to say that it doesn't shine, it certainly does.
Right.
But it doesn't radiate light and reflect light.
It looks like wood, and not wood with a sheet of glass on top of it.
I wouldn't be that stark about it, but the notion that...
Shoot down my analogy.
I don't mean to offend you, but no.
Fuck off, Dennis. No. All right.
So it just is this, is that when they put the floor in and it was brand new and they sealed it, when they sealed it, they didn't put on newfangled varnish, which is what the real deep shine is. It's a coating that, unlike it, that's similar to what you said, actually. It is like a sheet of glass on it.
Almost. Isn't it right now?
Oh, yeah, I thought about it. But so my choice has always been to go with a flatter finish. And also, it is easier to keep clean. So we went with the satin finish is the one that's in between the flat and the real shiny. And we went with satin. And I thought it was too shiny. My wife thought it wasn't nearly shiny enough. So there you go.
That's what they call compromise. Everyone's unhappy.
It was the perfect choice. Nobody in the room was happy.
So how long did it take to dry? Like how long?
Way overnight. Certainly overnight. 2 or 3 days before putting furniture on it. And
okay, that makes sense to me, because
make sure you're clear about something in this agreement. That I'm glad to hear that you haven't signed anything yet, because the question is, to a large degree, first of all, do you have any cracks in the floor, in between the boards, or is all that real solid stuff?
Not that I know of.
You would know it because you would see it. You would see, oh, there's a crack in my floor.
There are some spots that will creak if you step right on that spot, but
that's more about support rather than the caulk or the mortar in between the wood. But it sounds like it's not a problem. I had a problem in that I had cracks, and they said, no, we'll fill it. It'll look just like the wood. It's the same color. It'll look great. And to my delight, when it was shining and drying over the couple of days before I moved furniture on it, and I walked on it in socks, I think, the second day, is that all the cracks were gone. It filled them all. And then a year and a half later, winter came, maybe 2 winters, and the stuff that was in the cracks opened up and dried. And so my cracks reappeared, so to speak. I don't want to go in the direction that you would like to take this, but my
I don't know what you're referring to. Yes.
Did reappear. And so I called the dude, and he's, oh, by blah, and she says, the thing I get back is, doesn't answer my question. And so I write or call or whatever, and I get something back that's this long message about customer satisfaction and this and that. And I thought, all right, that's fine. And get the guy, Tex-Mex Messaging, and he says, yeah, you're right. We will need to come back and redo that. But just so you know, it's going to keep happening. And I wrote him back and I said, well, that's my news.
Crack.
That's news to me. I didn't hear that a year and a half ago when you put the floor in. Yep. And for that money, I don't expect the cracks to reappear. And so we'll come back in the fall when things are slower. And he hasn't contacted me, and I'm sure that when I contact him, he's going to say, we were waiting to hear from you. And I said, no, I have an email in front of me that says, we will contact you at the end of the summer when things are slower. That would be now, or not now. But yeah, now it's coming September. So anyway, buyer beware, all the promises, read the fine print.
Yeah, so these guys, we said, hey, can you also do our stairs? Because we've got these nice wooden stairs. And they said, yes, but only the flat parts.
Not the tall part. It's all handwork.
Because what we're gonna put on your floor is basically a liquid that's gonna have to sit there and and soak in, and it can't be at any sort of an angle because it's all going to roll off.
Yeah.
So and they also said, look, so I said, so we need to like not be in the apartment for 3 or 4 days, and he said, at least a week you're going to need.
At least a week for the stairs.
For the whole thing.
Certainly, though. But if you were to say, how long would I have to wait if you're not doing the stairs? And he would say, about 4 days.
Maybe. If it takes 3 days to do for whatever they put down to dry, like, one would think that they would try and do a whole floor at a time, or at least a room at a time.
Certainly. All I'm suggesting is that there's a difference between what they're putting on the floor and what they're putting on your stair steps. And it may be nothing more than quantity, but because stair steps are absolutely worn,
heavily trafficked
every day, you probably put on either a thicker mix, and I have seen some of these where they're actually warmed, so that they pour in a warm, thicker than maple syrup, particularly warm maple syrup, but almost, remember the stuff squirting out of a bottle that you would put the chocolate you'd put on your ice cream? That stuff squirting out there, and when it hits the wood, it starts to flatten. And it's not so much that it would drip on the vertical wall, it's that it would curtain, meaning that it would slowly ebb toward gravity.
Like a chocolate fountain coming down my stairs.
Yeah, not quite so much, because it all depends on how much they have to put on, but this is the point.
Okay.
That if the only difference between the two treatments, and I'm not sure this is the case, but if the only difference is the quantity, that means that the drying time is elongated, number one. But number two, more important than that, because it's so thick, you can't tread on it for a longer period of time, because while it's dry, it's not hardened. So while it's dry, it's not cured.
Right.
You go from dry to hardened to cured.
That's right.
Whether it's concrete or varnish or whatever. So what you've got to determine is you're on a floor where the coating is relatively thin compared to the steps. It's 3 or 4 days. Move furniture in a week. On the steps, however, because of either a different product or
there's no furniture on the
more
steps.
Than the quantity. Nothing more than the quantity.
Okay.
That it would take more time. To what are the 3 things? Number 1?
Pour.
that's
dry.
-1. That's
and,
0.0. Sorry. 0.0.
And flourish.
Flourish.
No, I mean,
that's number 4. Dry, harden, cure, flourish. That's the. Hey, let's do when this guy. Hey, listen.
Hey.
When this guy comes in and does some of the floor.
Yes.
I want you to film him, and then I will do the voiceover to describe what's happening and those 4 steps.
Okay.
Okay.
Possibly that might happen. Yes.
You don't have anything else to do.
If I'm
you can't work for 2 weeks. Just take it. Hey, are you in your new job?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
I've been in my new job.
Wow, you're just moving. You're just moving.
It's a rocket ship.
Job offer. You're in the market.
I know.
Market, man. You're like a millennial in demand. That could be the title of this particular.
No.
What number are we at? 103.
We are at a special number.
124.
No.
125.
125. Why is that number special?
That means because it's a multiple of 1,000.
No. Try again.
It's the 125th anniversary of the first podcast. That was done by 2 guys just in different rooms yelling to each other, and then people in the living room listening.
Yes, exactly right. Back in 1897, there was 2 guys yelling at each other, and they were like, "We should put this on the radio." But they didn't have they recorded it on a phonograph, and
in that year they had that
on wax. It was a wax cylinder, and that is
But you missed the predecessor of that. Before all that, it was way back when, and there were these 2 guys who were drinking, but for whatever reason they were drinking in 2 different rooms.
Right.
And it was 5 o'clock and whatever time, and they were yelling to each other.
Right.
And one guy said, "This is pretty funny. Let's invite some people to sit in the living room and listen," because they were in the dining room and the kitchen.
Right.
And so that was the predecessor of the.
I imagine that how it started was the neighbors were like, "God, these assholes won't shut up," but then they got interested and they started to tell their friends like, "Hey, my neighbors just shout at each other and about just the most ridiculous stuff about how to finish a floor and shit like that." And so then people started coming over.
Stuff that nobody's interested in whatsoever. That's two guys talking about absolutely nothing.
That's the whole point, right? It's what? So what's special about the number 125 is it's a perfect cube.
Oh.
Indeed. It is 5
Perfect
cubed.
Cube.
5 cubed is 125. So if you had, I don't know, that's just math for you.
It's just math.
5 times 25.
It's just math.
Is,
so
what
current
happened?
events.
Something happened?
Oh, the
world?
Ida hurricane in Louisiana. And I've got friends down there that are...
I'd heard of that.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Imagine this. 100% of the residents of the city of New Orleans,
Yep.
one of the major cities in the United States and in the world, were without power. 100%. The capital of Louisiana, Baton Rouge,
Red stick?
90%. What you drinking there, partner? Looks like a brewski.
I was drinking a
Unless you're
brewski.
chugging a bottle of gin or something.
No, that's on Thursdays. No, this is... So remember how I had a whole bunch of craft beer in the fridge?
Yes.
Over here?
From your
And-
partners from
my friends.
The hacienda you sent me the
Exactly.
photos of.
But for 3 weeks, I haven't really come over here because the painter's been... The process of taking all those little bumps off the wall fills the space with little dust particles.
Still?
No, they mostly settled, but I think we need to mop the floor like 7 more times before we get all...
I have a little experience on this. Let me help you here.
But I will get back to your dust experience. So anyway, I haven't been over here to be drinking my beers. And this is a schmuck.
Schmuck. SDB.
SDR.
SDR.
SDR stands for Santander. That's my local major town. That's the airport code of my local airport.
Oh,
And it's a
local beer.
pale ale, La Mas Rubia,
Right in your town they make it?
the most blonde. No, not in my town, in the nearest city.
Yeah.
You know, with a car, I could get there in 30 minutes. So tell me about why I have dust everywhere.
You sent me this picture of all these planks that they use to, I think what you said was they use them to dry fish on.
No.
Clean fish? What were they doing? What are the planks for?
These are the planks that make, as far as I know, make up the deck of the boat. And in the summer, they take them all out and they treat them with something and they leave them to dry in the sun.
And are the planks different lengths? Because the boat is different widths.
The plunk length, yes. I don't know. They all seem to be similar lengths to me, but whatever.
But you didn't actually measure them.
No, I generally don't go for walks
Right.
with my measuring stick.
Really? You're weird.
I know, right? No, but if you look in the
Really?
photograph, they all...
You leave the house without a tape measure in your pocket?
I do. Yeah, how uncurious about the world I am.
What?
Because
oh man, you
might find
construction work. You're no construction worker, that's for sure.
I know you might find
Let me
a
ask you
sheep
this.
that you want to know how tall it is or whatever.
Oh, what could be, or wide, or long? Do this for me. I want you to show me your hand, one of your hands, on the screen. Show me a hand. Okay, now spread it wide. What's the distance between the tip of your finger and the tip of your thumb? You don't know? That is your tape measure. Now, I want you to do the same
Hand
thing,
span.
but now I want you to
remember-
close your hand.
I remembered we did this in some class in school, and I recall it was like 7 inches was my hand.
There you go. Now close it. Close it. Palm it. Show me your palm. No, the palm. Close your fingers. Palm. There you go. And then the distance same. Pinky tip to thumb tip. And then show me your whole elbow. Show me your elbow. Come on. Don't be shy.
I'm getting very
There you
comfortable.
go. Elbow to the tips of your fingers. You are, in fact, your own measuring tape.
Whoa.
When you stride and you take a normal walk, what is your stride? Mine, practiced, is exactly 3 feet to the inch.
I must help with golf.
I am, in fact, a human measuring tape, as are you, except you are ignorant to your true nature. It is, in fact, your higher calling. It's probably the only thing that you're ever going to be really good at. It's going to change as you get older and you start to shrink. So
Well-
you have to reassess. There's a quality assurance protocol, continual quality assurance
Do I
protocol.
have to get relicensed every year or something?
No, just recertified. It's a big difference.
6 of one, half dozen of the other.
No. No.
Half dozen is not the
Think
right
about
measurement.
it. Relicensing versus recertification. What's the difference?
Certification is that you are capable of doing something, and licensing is that you are allowed to do something.
Huh, that's an interesting stuff. It sounds like total bullshit to me, but I think
What's the
it's
difference
on
to you,
to some. Well,
sir?
I would say that one is a time-driven agreement to meet a certain standard.
Which one is that?
Certification is an annual event that shows that you're meeting that level of standardization that is required of your license.
So you need to get certified more often than relicensed.
Oh, of course.
Of course, obviously. That goes without saying. What a stupid question.
Apparently not in some quarters. You obviously don't live in the real world. What the fuck is it you do for a living? You sit in this gray room with your new shiny floor that has to be replaced with a shinier floor. I gotta congratulate you for not settling. But I suspect that it's your significant other that's not settling, and that you're just like a bobber in the water. You're just like a tumbleweed blowing through the Nevada desert. You are like a light a seed that blows in the wind over the oceans, thousands of miles in distance from the world's largest trees. But you're nothing more than a absolute innocent and untethered, no responsibility whatsoever to what happens to you. You are blowing in the wind.
Any sense of control is an illusion. It's just...
Yes. Anyway, we build these walls, we build these boxes, we build these extra layers of thickness to act like somehow we have it under control. We have it packaged. We have it contained. We are clear in our world about what it looks like. We paint our walls. We flash our floors with shiny, unbelievably shiny...
I must know what I do because I got a license and I got certified.
You have a license to do what you like. And every so often we have to certify whether or not you're sane enough to actually handle this responsibility. I suspect no.
I've failed the last 7.
The ball and chain. You are the ball and chain. In fact, you are the ball and chain. In fact, to your significant other, who is a blessed saint on the earth for not only taking care of you, but putting up with you.
More the latter than the former.
You would settle for anything. You would settle for anything. You'd still be in a bumpy wall, pink, bleached out floor room with a tired old couch. And as long as you had your cooler of beer, you were good. You were good. Filthy blankets.
As a simple boy.
You're a simple boy with simple desires.
I don't need much.
Hey, guess what I watched the other day?
I
think this should be in your homework. Maybe you remember it. The Legend of Bagger Vance. Legend of... Yes. Bagger Vance?
Bagger Vance.
Bagger Vance. I just saw it again the other day. Bagger Vance.
Which is ironic because he's a caddy carrying it back. That's
not ironic.
That's Will Smith and Matt Damon?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And Charisse Theron. Oh, no, Charisse Theron.
Charisse Theron.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
What a role. She has more words in her part than anybody else in the movie combined. She is a talkaholic. Oh, my God, she's great.
And the fact that she's like incomprehensibly pretty, like she's too perfect. Physically.
And
it's just like awkward. Like if I ran into her on the street, I would be like, I can't
awkward
remotely speak to someone like you.
You'd be mesmerized.
Yeah,
you'd be mesmerized.
Look, I'm saying she's an alien. She's not from this planet.
What do you mean, Erik? What do you mean she's an alien?
I mean that her race figured out the most perfect human face, and they created her, and that's...
Do you have any proof of this, Erik?
No, it's all faith.
One of the things that we have to be mindful of is that in certain parts of our countries there are people who know, in fact, that there are aliens.
Well, yeah.
And what they do whenever there is proof is they make sure that the proof is exterminated.
Which is why I'm saying there's no proof.
Just Google how John Mack died. Just Google how John Mack died and when.
Big Mac?
A little bit. John Mack. Just
John Wayne?
A little bit more careful about what you say on the radio waves. I know it's not really radio, but it's the only way I can think of it. I am, after all, 70.
Word to the one. The aliens are going to hear this broadcast in some form.
They already have. You know how I know they have? You know how I know
before we even recorded it.
Yes. It's been recorded forever, Erik. It's been recorded.
We're just going through the motions.
Forever.
Right.
This isn't the first time we've done this. We've never stopped doing this. Every episode is an eternal...
I'm sorry to Tharlise Sharon, or whatever you called her. Tharlise Sharon Stone.
Juxtaposed the first two letters of her first and last name, so
yeah, what happens?
It was Charisse Theron. It was Therese Churro.
hey, maybe aliens are cool with that sort of mix-up, but maybe they're going to come and disembowel you or
Bring her
something.
home. I want to talk
to me
a
about
little
the
bit about
movie.
John. I want to talk with the movie. Oh, what movie? What movie was it?
Never.
Oh, Bagger Vance. Yes. So the instructions of Bagger Vance to
Remind me a bit of the plot.
so
Will Smith with
a
the caddy.
golf prodigy at the age of 17.
Amen.
He's Matt Damon's character, which I'm blanking on his name right
Yeah,
now, but
who cares?
he is in his prime, goes off to war. He is a leader of his troops. All of his troops but him are lost. He becomes a hopeless alcoholic and
Which war is
gambler.
this?
This is World War One.
Okay.
And he comes back and lives in a shambly place. And the town has gone through the Depression, so it's in the 1920s. And they had just spent, the richest man in town, had just spent his entire fortune and mortgaged everything he owned to build the most beautiful golf course resort in Georgia, in Savannah. And so they were going to hold a tournament.
Not in Augusta.
No. They were going to hold a tournament to bring attention to it, and they asked the two brightest stars of the day, was it Ben Hogan?
Yep.
I'm drawing a blank on the second guy, but to the plot is that they have to convince a local guy, that i.e., of course,
Right.
Matt Damon's character. What was his name? He had a strange name. It was Judah. That was his name, Judah. And they had to convince Judah. And
The man named Judah, isn't it? Why would you name your kid that?
The daughter of the man who ended up dying and inherited the golf course is played none other than our wonderful alien, and she has to go to Judah to convince him, and she says, "What will it take? Will it take that you'll sleep with me?" And she's just talking a mile a minute, and he said, "Yes, it will." And so she takes off her clothes, so she's only in her slip, and there the young boy who ran from the town hall meeting when they said, "We got to get Judah." He was Judah's biggest fan. He said, "I know where he is." He rode his bike all the way out to the dilapidated old Savannah, Georgia mansion, deteriorating mansion with the
Plantation.
shutters all a jumble and the big porch, and runs in and tries to convince Judah. Judah says, "No way." And then the daughter shows up, and the kid acts like he's asleep, and he gets to watch her take off her clothes to her slip. And it never consummates because Judah is so far gone and feeling so sorry for himself, he just ends up insulting her and she storms off. But the scene that's lovely is when the kid is telling his friends about it because he's 10 years old and they can't believe his good luck, neither can he. And it's very well done. I thought about it the other day when I was watching it for about the fifth time, how well Will Smith plays the spiritual figure and how understudied and just really calm and low-key he is. And it's interesting that they don't in that time at all touch on racial issues, given that Bagger Vance is black. And in fact, at that time, he would not be allowed in the facility. They never showed him in the facility.
Okay, so this was back in
1933, maybe.
Yeah, but this movie came out in 2000. And in 2000, we, as a society in America, were in this post-racism. We had this idea that you could have Will Smith or Denzel Washington in a movie, and race would never come up. It would just be normal that he would be there with the other people. And this was a sort of a phenomenon that we went through in the late 90s, where like Hollywood just didn't acknowledge race anymore. And it's really interesting in this particular movie. For total clarification, Matt Damon's character was Ranulph Juna, not Judah. And the pros were Walter Hagen and Bobby Jones.
Oh, yeah. Bobby Jones' character was exceptional.
But I recall this as being as far as golf movies go, being pretty okay. I haven't seen it in 20 years probably, but I remember it not being excessively wrong in a way that some movies are about a topic that you know about.
It wasn't at all, and in fact, that's exactly why I mentioned Bobby Jones' character, because the scene that comes to mind is when Bagger Vance says to Jonah, he was flailing all over the place, he said, "I want you to just take a minute, and I want you to watch Bobby Jones." And as they showed Bobby Jones in slow-mo, Bagger Vance was explaining what he was doing in terms of blocking out the entire world and imaging his shot so that he was totally focused.
In the zone.
Totally focused. And they use that old camera thing where they zoom in on stuff real quick and zoom, and they show like things in rapid motion. And he got in that, and then his hubris set in when he was in the sand trap. Reminds me of you going over the water on the 18th hole when we played championship golf, and you went into the water after I told you,
don't go in the water. Yeah. So
no, I didn't say that. I said, don't go left. That's what I said. And you did. Exactly. And I won.
Yeah,
it was great.
One of the times, yes.
One of the times, yeah.
Am I wrong in remembering that there was some sort of like ghostliness about Bagger Vance? Was there like a Fight Clubby? Was he really there, or was he imagined?
No, so not so much that, but the closing scene of Bagger Vance. First of all, the opening scene with none other than Jack Lemmon as the aged kid. He is describing how he's had 3 heart attacks and never died. And one of the heart attacks he had in the past was on the golf course. And he has another one. And as he's waking up from that heart attack, he tells
it's a flashback.
It's a flashback. And so then, as it turns out, the ending shows him getting up from that same heart attack, and this time walking at sunset up the golf course. And the silhouette against the sunset is none other than Bagger Vance, who's waving to him.
I remember there was a spiritual aspect to it.
To Bagger Vance. Now, and this is the thing, and it wasn't so much that anything was imagined. The story was true. It was that just as some, including the kid, had wondered whether Bagger Vance was some type of, at least a priest of some kind, at least some type of a master. Little did they know how right they were. His sudden appearance and the way he walked away without knowing what had happened in the last putt with the cars with the lights on, which by the way, I don't know if you know this, but DeChambeau and Cantley went through a unprecedented, I believe, was it 8 playoff holes? Or maybe 6, maybe, I don't know. But DeChambeau missed winning putts. I think it must have been 6, like 5 or 6 times in a row. And they had announced that they could do it 2 more times before it got too dark. And the announcer said, we'll have to bring the cars in and shine the lights. Without making reference to it, he made reference to Bagger Vance. To that scene at the end where that's what they did. They brought all the cars in.
Interesting.
And I'd have to listen to the clip to double check that. But it's an interesting thing that just happened just this past weekend.
So you mentioned that Bagger Vance was this sort of person that came in at the right time to fix a problem. And the Legend of Bagger Vance is cited as one of the most of the, it's the second, well, okay, there are 2 movies cited as what of this movie trope called the Magical Negro, that this was coined by Spike Lee, I think. And the other movie was, so Legend of Bagger Vance was from 2000. The other movie is from 1999. Do you want to guess a
The Green
magic?
Mile.
You got it. First guess. So those 2 movies, it's obviously it's a touchy subject of this, but there's this common trope of there being this other race or someone coming from somewhere else that is magical that solves problems in many of our historical stories. But if you look at the Wikipedia page for Magical Negro, it's Green Mile and Legend of Bagger Vance. Use the super duper Magical Negro, what he says.
And of the 2, Green Mile by far the more riveting. And the power of the Green Mile at the time too was its technical capability to show the power of the insect things.
That was totally new at the time.
It was absolutely unnerving. Absolutely unnerving. And of course, you could check me on this, but the trajectory of Tom Hanks' career was such that this was earlier on in his dramatic film career, where in later years it became clear that he didn't have to just be a eccentric or curious or somewhat funny character like in Big,
or a rom-com who's got mail sort of situation.
Right. Now just serious, because he was amazing.
Yes, that was an amazing movie.
Was amazing, the whole thing. And the actor passed away recently.
This episode will be posted on the 9th anniversary of his death.
Now, he was in fact a very short man. And in the entire movie, they never show him from a vantage point using camera tricks. They do, but in the movie he's very tall. He's very huge.
He's
so
six.
They built a little.
6'5". Sorry.
He's 6'5".
Yeah. He's a big dude. He's certainly wide. He's almost 6 feet wide too. But Michael Clark Duncan.
Man, I've been wrong about this all my years. I thought he was.
You've been
like
telling
5'6".
people this. You're clever.
God, I haven't. I mean,
age 54. Man, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heart attack. Anyway, so that's exciting and happy. What you got there? You got a bumper sticker? I'm no longer in that industry. I used to could have hooked you up, but not anymore. I have a movie to talk to you about.
Oh.
You would be up to that.
And I have a TV series to tell you about and get you some homework.
Okay.
You first.
Advertise to me. Like, the Apple TV Plus platform is really good at, they will show you a trailer of some other show that they want to promote before you start watching every episode of whatever you're looking at. And I saw this one and I immediately sent it to my daughter because I knew she would love it. Because my daughter is really into one of the janitors at her school is deaf. And so they have in some class, they learned enough. It's not American Sign Language, obviously. It's Spanish Sign Language to be able to say, "Hey, how's it going?" to the deaf janitor lady. And so this is a movie called Coda.
Oh.
And I know Coda as a music term because it's something to go back to repeat, and I think it's the title of a Led Zeppelin album, but it is also an acronym for Child of Deaf Adults. And so this movie is about a teenage girl where both her parents and her older brother are deaf, and she discovers that she can sing. And all of that, already your mind has gone to where that can go, and the drama.
It's based on a book?
I don't know. I can look that up, but the idea is fantastic, and turns out it's played by a British girl who's more known for some other TV show that she's done, but she spent 9 months learning American Sign Language, and all of the deaf characters are actually deaf actors. They really are deaf.
Wow.
And it's
a movie, not a series.
It's a movie. It's an English language American remake of a 2014 French film. So it's a thing that happened before, but it premiered at the 2021 Sundance Film Festival and was quite popular. But it's super. So they're based in, I was going to say Maine, but it's actually Massachusetts. So her parents, her father and her brother, are fishermen. They go out and fish and bring back their catch, but they have trouble selling their fish because they can't understand the people that they're selling to. So she has always been there on the boat and listening for when the radio buzzes and says, "Hey," whatever, all the stuff you have to do to run a boat. And so there's this cute boy in high school that signs up for chorus or whatever. So she says, "I'm going to sign for chorus too." And anyway, but when she's out on the boat, she spends all her time singing along to Aretha Franklin and stuff because when she's at home, she cranks up the music as loud as she wants because she's not bothering anyone.
That sounds fascinating.
And
it's not a book.
It was just a beautiful story. And just a lovely idea because all good stories, right? You've got your premise and you've got your conflict and your resolution. And what a great idea for a conflict.
Yeah.
And in the trailer, they show when she's performing on stage and her parents are just sitting there looking, and then the audience gives a standing ovation, and the parents are like, "Oh yeah, yay." Or they actually start doing the deaf applause hand waving thing. And it was just really an interesting idea, and I highly recommend this to anyone that can see Apple TV Plus content.
French film. So interestingly enough, my series is also French. And it is the title of the character in it that you will discover in the trailer is a victim of murder, and it goes by the name Laetitia, and it is spelled Laetitia in the French spelling. And it is a murder mystery that I will not miss an episode. and it's in French with subtitles.
Oui, oui.
And it's worth looking at. I stumbled on it.
How are you seeing this? Because it's also developed for Apple TV Plus.
Laetitia?
No, sorry. Wrong. Clicked on the wrong thing. Sorry.
This is HBO.
Laetitia. Because
I did a lot of searching for my homework. I found none of it. I went all my notes here from the back in time discussion we had.
Yes.
Somewhere in time.
Yes.
Timeline 11/22/63.
Yeah.
Documentary now. None of it came up. None of it. I got to take care of business, man. I got to take care of business. I'm a technical wreck. A technical
gotta get
dumpster.
your shit together. Laetitia. Okay. This will be in the show notes at happyhour.fm/125. Laetitia. Okay. 18-year-old Laetitia disappears. Her overturned scooter is found in front of her house one morning. While police are certain they've arrested the suspect, they haven't found Laetitia's body. Dun dun dun. All right.
Very serious shit.
Now
and,
that
and she is a twin, and so
that
much of the
complicates things.
Oh yes.
Especially when you look at her body and you're not sure if the person's dead or not.
They're not identical twins.
Okay, fine.
What do you call? There's a term for that. There's two terms. One
Fraternal.
for identical and one for what?
Fraternal.
Fraternal.
Or in this case, sororal. They're sisters.
Sororal and Hardy.
Sororal. Yeah. Hey, last weekend, I escaped with my family to go a 3-hour drive to the west to the land called Galicia. It's the furthest northwestern part of Spain. We just crossed the border. Like most of the time we were right on the border. So we weren't anywhere near the Atlantic coast. But we went to this beach that my wife and I went to 15 years ago when we first moved to Spain. We took this, we didn't have kids or anything, and we decided that for Easter, we were going to drive west until we made it all the way to the ocean at La Coruña. But at this particular, we had booked ahead where we were going to stay, but for this particular stage of the journey, we hadn't found a B&B or something that we could stay at, or a hostel or something, because we were young and we would still stay at hostels. And so at this particular town, we actually spent the night sleeping in our car. We parked in this parking lot, and we had a blanket, and we just leaned our seats back and spent that night in the car. And
romantic.
I know. And then we got up the next morning and we went to a local bar and splashed some water on our face, and we were ready to go.
Bloody Marys.
Yes. And so we went to the same little town that we had stopped at before. We took our kids and my sister-in-law, and we booked an apartment just outside of town. And we were walking around one night in the town, and we were just walking around, and we came across this parking lot with this wall, and my wife and I looked at each other and we were like, this is where we spent that night. And,
oh, shit.
And sure enough, I had taken a photo of our car against that wall 15 years ago, and I pulled it up, and sure enough, that was exactly where it was.
Oh, you found it 15 years ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. But we went to this beach that's a fairly special tourist attraction. 15 years ago, it wasn't so much. It's called the Beach of Cathedrals, which is an impressive name to live up to. But the idea is that there's the land around the water is 50 feet higher than the water is, but then you can walk down this ramp and get to this lovely beach, but there are still some 50-foot tall rock structures that the waves have worn away at the cliff in such a way that there are these arches that are just on this beach that are super tall and amazing.
No kidding.
And it's just a real sight to behold. And
yeah,
it was
imagine you do.
It was beautiful 15 years ago, and we have pics from 15 years ago. But now you have to. It doesn't cost anything to go there, but you have to register and get a ticket so that they can control that fewer than 2,000 people go down there at any one time. And also, you have to go at low tide, because at high tide, the thing fills up to 10 feet underwater.
Right.
And so,
so that's an interesting statistic, is that the tide draw is 10 feet.
Yes, we have especially high tides where I am. You can find maps on the internet of where the biggest tides are, because somehow, given the density of the earth and blah 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 science, there are places on the earth where the tide goes up and down 2 feet, and other places where it goes up and down.
Juno. Check out
Yes.
Juneau, Alaska.
Yes,
or
Alaska
Anchorage,
is,
Alaska.
Alaska is one of the other places.
It's Cook. It's the Cook. Body water is the Cook something or other. But it's ocean. Cook Sound, yes. And it's 24 feet.
Yeah.
I told you the story about the whale hunters. Remember? The whale hunters who cut the tree and turned it upside down, hidden the roots for the whale to come by.
No, but I am
I
finishing.
told you the story. I can't believe you don't remember.
I am finishing Alaska,
Oh,
which I've been reading off and on since you recommended it to me, and so
it's sounding, isn't it?
I'm all up in Alaska, what the whale means to the people there, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But anyway, this place is really a beautiful place to go, and we had a great time because the water comes in and out twice a day. The beach is fairly pristine, and you can find little crabs.
Sure.
You can find little crabs running around and little sea anemone and stuff. And it was just a gorgeous time. And my kids had a great time. Kids had a great time.
Yeah.
And
3 hours though, huh?
you spend a lot of time like waiting in line somewhat respectfully with other people so that you can go and pose in the spot that's really beautiful to pose in. And but it was lovely.
But it's a tourist attraction for good reasons.
It is now. But before, almost no one went there like 15 years ago.
When you were at the beach, we were at the beach as well. I have a couple pictures to show you.
Wow.
We were at
Were there any
Lions
cathedrals?
Beach.
Named after the Detroit Lions.
Oh, by the way,
Or were there felines?
you might be interested knowing the Lions have lost all of their exhibition games with their new coach.
I would not be interested in knowing that.
Yeah, here's the thing. I wish I weren't. But anyway, I'll show you a couple of pictures. There's a beautiful old iconic lighthouse in St. Joseph where we were. And the Silver Beach is actually listed as one of the top, in one of the lists I saw, one of the top 10 beaches in the world. St. Joseph, Michigan. Silver Beach. So that was fun. Took a few beers, went there for lunch, ate at Bucks, which was a bit of a disappointment, but we're learning the time. We're actually going to go to Holland soon, which has a lovely beach, and also has my favorite Marriott property is the Courtyard Marriott, and that is the centerpiece of the downtown. It's a beautiful hotel that they put downtown, and on the block where that hotel is, there are at least 2 breweries, maybe 3 microbreweries. There's 2 or 3 restaurants. There's an arts center. There's gorgeous green spaces and parks, and it's a 10-minute drive to Lake Michigan, which of course is so big that it appears to be an ocean. You can't see the other shore, so as soon as that happens, it's big as big. Of course, nothing like ocean waves. But the particular place we go, and I'll send you a picture of this, is that back in the day, for whatever reason, they put up these huge metal corrugated stops, like break walls, to keep the beach from eroding, which now the water side of those metal walls, the water's deeper and dangerous and very wavy. But when the water hits that wall, it squirts up, and because waves hit on an angle, I've got a little film of this, I think, where the water goes. It's almost like you're in Vegas for the water show at the Bellagio. Bellagio. Correstad. Hey, what did that movie? Oh, you know what I saw last night? Risky Business. Tom Cruise, teenager, and Rebecca De Mornay as the oof, my word, yes, and don't know where I went there, but here's the thing, I gotta go.
You're thinking about sliding around on your socks in your underwear. Yes.
Oh, I thought somehow you were watching me. That was exactly what I was doing.
I don't know if this floor is smooth enough, but I might try that later.
Give it a shot. Send me a picture.
I won't be posting that on the show notes.
Right, I gotta know it here. Pics. Erik with a C. I love you, man. It's been a great time.
Dennis with a Z. Later, buddy. All right, that does it for episode number 125, 5 cubed. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/125. You can help support the show at patreon.com/happyhour. And we will not be back next week because I will be traveling, but the week after that, I promise we will come back into your ears. See you in a fortnight.